...2019 hurricane season opens with powerful lessons from Matthew, Irma, Michael. Orlando, Florida. Florida will start the 2019 hurricane season powerfully informed by Matthew's scary Mississippi of the East Coast in 2016, the statewide crushing from Irma in 2017, and Michael's brutal assault on the Panhandle last year. Each of those monster storms was different in nature, but none devastated a metropolitan area, something forecasters say will happen sooner or later. Michael was particularly chilling for experts. It gained far more. Michael was more than a month later than the previous, strongest mainland U.S. landfalling hurricane we've ever seen, said meteorologist Jeff Masters, a founder of the internet-based weather service Weather Underground. He said the storm would not have gotten so strong if Florida had not had its hottest September on record last year. The record warmed. Until Hermine hit in September 2016, Florida had not had experienced a hurricane strike for more than a decade. But it was Matthew, topping out in the Caribbean as a Category 5 in October that year, that woke up the state's east coast, with former government Rick Scott warning. Matthew wound up skirting the coast, triggering costly flooding in St. Augustine, and a key and sobering eye-opener from Matthew was that for a storm traveling parallel with Florida's coastline, even a tiny error in the forecast for where it will make landfall can mean the difference between clobbering several cities and remaining offshore just enough to avert disaster. Also maxing out as a Category 5 early in its journey, Hurricane Irma vexed residents and forecasters with frequent changes in its apparent route toward Florida. It was the size of Texas as it finally churned north along a path just west of the center of the state's peninsula spine, flooding and damaging cities on both coasts. The storm was blamed for more than 80 deaths in Florida, epic episodes of evacuees stranded on roads, and massive sewage spills caused by the worst outages on record for many utilities. As its executives would later apologize for when speaking to state lawmakers, Duke Energy in particular was revealed to be poorly prepared for the storm. The utilities last year, Michael was one of the most powerful storms ever to strike the U.S. It hit near Mexico Beach, a seaside community east of Panama City, with a population of a little more than 1,100 residents. Michael Brennan, branch chief of the National Hurricane Center's Hurricane Specialist Unit, said the storm revealed the heightened risk of coastal living. Michael went from basically forming to making landfall as a Category 5 in 3 days, Brennan said. People think they are. Michael was yet another reminder of what emergency managers routinely urge Floridians need to have a plan at the start of the season. Know what you need to do, know what your risks are in a storm surge, know what your vulnerability is to wind and freshwater flooding, Brennan said. Know if you are asked. Brennan said Mexico Beach was spared greater tragedy by its size. The challenge with a storm like Michael that hits a more populated area is you could have thousands of people left in an area that's vulnerable to storm surge as opposed to less than 100 left in Mexico Beach, Brennan said. It's a small enough. We have multiple major metropolitan areas that are very vulnerable to storm surge and have millions of people living in them and hundreds of thousands of people you will need to evacuate, he said. It's a big challenge. Michael formed as a tropical depression on October 7 and made landfall 3 days later as a Category 5 with winds of 160 mph. We got away with one there because the storm intensified by 45 mph in the last 24 hours before landfall, said Masters of Weather Underground. That's a big increase and it makes it tough for warnings and evacuations in vulnerable areas, Masters said. Masters said the U.S. needs to invest far more heavily on research into the forecasting of hurricane intensity. We can't have a situation where we blow the intensity forecast, he said. The Hurricane Center, if Michael had taken aim at Tampa Bay, its forecasted strength would have triggered a storm surge of 18 feet. But its actual you've got a huge population there. You've got evacuate. Masters said researchers are finding that the rate of intensification of Atlantic hurricanes has increased in recent years. Rapid intensifiers are become more common, and that's bad news for unprepared populations, Masters said. Copyright 2019 The Orlando Sentinel, Orlando, Florida. Visit the Orlando Sentinel, Orlando, Florida at www. Distributed by Tribune Content Agency, LLC. Search for location/city.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.